We should have never touched it. I keep telling myself that, but the thought coils tighter each time I say it. The vines weren't just plants. They were something else. I remember how they twisted as I pulled them, how they throbbed, warm and wet in my hands, like muscle under skin, and when the shears cut them open, they bled. Not sap. Blood. Dark, thick, metallic. Lucy screamed when the first drop hit the floor. I think she knew before I did. Now she's lying beside me, asleep but not breathing the way she used to. Her chest doesn't rise or fall. And her lips are blooming. We bought the house in late March, a towering Victorian near Hudson with ivy clinging to its bones. The paint peeled in long curls like dead bark, the porch sagged, and the windows stared out blankly, but it had good bones, or so the realtor said. Lucy fell in love with the stained glass windows and the curved staircase, and I was just tired of city air. We moved in during the first week of April. The snow melted quick that year, and the garden out back started sprouting early, almost too early. Crocuses bloomed before the frost was gone. Tulips opened like mouths. I didn't think much of it then. Renovation took over everything. We tore out wallpaper, sanded floors, replaced light fixtures. It was ordinary until we found the attic. The entrance was hidden behind a bookshelf in the upstairs hall. Lucy noticed the outline when she was dusting. We thought we'd found a storage space, maybe a forgotten trunk with old letters, some antique we could sell. The door creaked open like it hadn't been touched in 100 years. Dust poured out, choking and thick. But inside was green. Dense. Overgrown. The attic was teeming with life. Thick vines covered the ceiling like veins. Leaves trembled without wind. Flowers, some familiar, some not, opened toward nothing. There were no windows, no lamps, just darkness. And yet the plants thrived. No soil, no water. No reason. Lucy said it felt warm. Not hot. Alive. There was a humming, just below hearing, like bees or something deeper. I stepped forward and one of the vines moved, actually moved, curling toward my ankle. I told myself it was coincidence, air currents maybe. But they responded to us. If Lucy stepped close, the blossoms turned toward her like they knew her. She laughed at first, called it eerie but beautiful. We made the mistake of cutting one down. It shrieked. Not loudly. Not even out loud, I think. But I felt the scream in my teeth, in the backs of my eyes. The vine bled onto my shoes. Lucy fell back, her hand to her mouth, and then we both ran. We locked the attic, nailed it shut. That night, she had a fever. Her skin flushed green at the edges, almost like moss. By morning she said she felt better, but her voice sounded like someone had shaken gravel into her throat. Then came the petals. They were small at first, soft and pale, peeking from her lips while she slept. I thought it was a dream, a nightmare left over from the attic. But in the mirror, God, in the mirror, her reflection smiled. She didn't. Her mouth was still. Her eyes were afraid. But her reflection smiled. A slow, knowing, cruel curl. I touched her shoulder. She turned to me, confused, asking what was wrong. I said nothing. What the hell could I say? The next night, she didn't sleep. She sat upright in bed, hands clasped, humming something I couldn't place. Her nails had gone black. When I asked if she was okay, she said she was fine. But her voice, it came from too deep, like it had roots. She said she was hungry. I brought her soup. She wouldn't eat it. Instead, she pressed her lips to the bouquet on the windowsill and inhaled deeply. When she pulled back, the flowers were wilted. Her cheeks bloomed red. She smiled without blinking for 10 minutes. I called a doctor. But when I picked up the phone, the receiver burned cold. Ice cold. And the line buzzed with that same low hum from the attic. I dropped it. The wallpaper in the hallway began peeling upward. Not down. Upward. Like it was being pulled toward something above. The vines had returned. First one, then many, crawling down the attic doorframe, sniffing the air. Lucy disappeared the next morning. I found her in the attic. She stood among the vines like a bride waiting at an altar. They parted for her, moved with her. As she walked, blossoms opened and turned to her. She turned to me. Her eyes were glossy, like wet bark. Her skin shimmered with a thin sheen of green, barely visible in the attic's darkness. She whispered, "I hear them," and then pressed her hand to the floor. It pulsed beneath her fingers. I begged her to come back down. She only smiled. Not her smile. The same one from the mirror. Now, she's here beside me. Asleep, or something like it. There's no pulse, but she's warm. Her mouth is closed, but something stirs behind her lips. A bud, maybe. A root. I tried to cut one of the vines again, and this time it bled more. A lot more. It gushed and soaked into the floorboards, and the walls moaned. The wallpaper twisted like skin trying to peel itself away. I don't know if she's still Lucy. I don't know if I'm still me. My hands smell like dirt even though I haven't touched the garden in days. The mirror no longer shows me at all. Only her. Only her, smiling. And I think I'm starting to bloom too. I still remember the shoes. That's the first thing I noticed, 7 pairs, all lined up with military precision at the edge of the woods. Like the forest had requested a toll, and my friends paid it in leather and canvas. It was the silence that hit me next. Not the kind you get in a library or late at night, but a heavy, unnatural quiet that presses against your skull until it feels like your thoughts are echoing. There should have been laughter, the sound of crinkling chip bags, the faint hum of someone's Bluetooth speaker playing some god-awful spring playlist. But there was only wind threading through the trees, and that low hum, faint, vibrating in my bones, just on the edge of hearing. The ground was still warm where the blankets had been. I remember kneeling and touching the flattened grass, half expecting it to be hot, burned even, but it was just warm, like they'd only just stood up and walked into the trees. I called out their names. Once. Twice. The third time, my voice cracked. The sound disappeared into the dense woods and didn't come back. No echo. Just that hum again, closer now, as if the trees themselves were breathing. Watching. Remembering. It had started as a joke. The first picnic of the season tradition, held every April since college. We picked the same spot every year, a clearing way off any trail, past an old ranger sign half swallowed by moss. You had to know where it was. You had to want to find it. That was the fun of it, or so we thought. The clearing had wildflowers and soft moss and just enough sun filtering through the canopy to feel like you were in a dream. A cursed one, maybe, in hindsight. I arrived last. My Subaru got stuck in mud 3 miles from the forest entrance, so I hiked in alone, annoyed and sweaty. By the time I reached the clearing, everyone else was already drinking cheap rose and laying out sandwiches on an old plaid blanket. They waved, called my name, tossed me a bottle of water. But even then, something was off. Not with them, with the photos. Caitlin was the first to notice. She scrolled through her phone, frowned, then held up the screen. "Who the hell is that?" she asked. I leaned in. There we were, me, Caitlin, Drew, Marcus, Tanya, Jules, and Ellie, standing by the picnic basket, grinning. And just behind us, slightly out of focus, was an 8th figure. A man. Tall, wearing what looked like a ranger uniform, though faded and wrong. Not like any park ranger I'd seen. His smile was crooked, like it had been added after the photo was taken. His eyes were too dark. Too deep. We all stared. Swiped to the next photo. He was there again. In a different position. Closer. Still blurry. Still smiling. Laughter turned to nervous jokes. Marcus claimed it was a double exposure. Caitlin laughed too loud, too fast. Ellie deleted the photos. Or tried to. Her phone screen went black and stayed that way, no matter how long she pressed the power button. We chalked it up to poor reception, forest vibes, solar flares, whatever made the least sense and the most comfort. We ate. We drank. We pretended. But the hum started after that. Faint at first, like a transformer far off in the distance, or the low drone of a plane too high to see. It pulsed, subtle, like a sound you don't hear so much as feel. I thought I was imagining it until Jules turned to me, whispering, "Do you hear that?" Her eyes were wide. She rubbed her arms like she was cold, though the air was warm and still. The birds went quiet. That was the real moment. 1 second, chirping, rustling, springtime sounds. The next, nothing. As if someone had pressed pause on the entire forest. Even the wind stopped. In the shadows, they started to shift. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just wrong. The kind of wrong that makes you squint and question if you're seeing things. I stood up, wiping crumbs off my jeans, and said we should probably pack up. No one argued. That's when we realized Drew was gone. Just gone. No scream. No footstep. No crunch of leaves. One moment he was unwrapping a candy bar, the next, empty space where he'd been sitting. His shoes were by the edge of the clearing. We panicked, of course. Called his name, ran in circles, checked behind trees, as if he was playing some twisted game of hide and seek. Nothing. Ellie started crying. Marcus grabbed a walking stick and began yelling into the woods like a man trying to fight the darkness. Tanya threw up. Caitlin kept refreshing her phone, tears streaking her cheeks, whispering, "This isn't happening. This isn't real." But it was. Because then Jules vanished too. I was looking at her. We were holding hands. One blink, and her grip went slack. She was gone. Shoes left behind. We stopped calling out names. Stopped yelling. Something about screaming into that silence made it feel worse. Like we were feeding it. The humming grew louder. No longer subtle. It buzzed through my teeth, my spine, like standing too close to a broken speaker. The air shimmered around us. And the trees. I swear they were moving. Not the branches. The trunks. Slight, subtle rotations, almost like they were leaning in. Listening. We tried to run. But the woods had changed. The path we came from was gone, replaced by dense underbrush and trees pressed too close together to pass through. The clearing had become a trap. A green mouth slowly closing in. One by one, they vanished. Marcus, mid-sentence, shoes left in perfect position. Tanya, seconds later, fingers still clutching the strap of her backpack. Ellie held my hand. Cried into my shoulder. Then she was gone. I didn't let go. I know I didn't. But the hand in mine turned to nothing. Only Caitlin and I remained. She stared at me, eyes hollow, whispering, "We weren't supposed to come back. Not after last year. Not after what we saw." But I didn't know what she meant. Last year had been fine. Laughs. Beer. Nothing out of the ordinary. Or so I thought. The hum became a scream, not loud, but constant. A scream that lived inside my head, vibrating every thought into static. The shadows closed in. Caitlin walked to the edge, calmly placed her shoes beside the others, and stepped into the trees barefoot. She didn't look back. Now I'm alone. I sit in the middle of the clearing, surrounded by baskets, half-eaten food, and 7 pairs of shoes. I can't hear birds. I can't hear my own breath. Only the hum. Only the forest. I want to leave, but there's no path. The trees have moved. They watch now. Closer. My phone won't work. My body feels heavy. My name, I'm starting to forget it. But here's the thing. I took one photo before everyone disappeared. Just one. I didn't look at it until now. My hand is shaking as I open the gallery. There are 8 people. But I was the one taking the picture. and that man is still smiling. Closer now. Right behind me. I didn't scream when I saw the hand. Maybe I should have. But it was early, before sunrise, and the world felt muffled, like the sound gets after a heavy snow. That morning, the sky was bruised with a faint purple, and the frost still clung stubbornly to the tall grass behind the cottage. I had come outside barefoot, not even fully awake, chasing the sound of wind chimes I hadn't hung. I saw the garden before I saw the hand. All the tulips had bloomed, overnight, in full and perfect blood-red rose. The soil between them steamed. Something had been digging. And then, just by the edge of the scarecrow's post, I saw it, fingers curled gently out of the soil like a plant reaching for light. Pale. Cracked. With dirt packed under the nails. It looked wrong, not like something buried, but like something planted. Something that wanted to come up. I didn't go closer. I turned, walked back inside, and locked the door, though it barely had a latch and the glass in it was still old and brittle. The cottage hadn't changed. Same smell of lavender and old books. Same crooked hallway and cracked fireplace tile. But I felt it now, that sharp, quiet pressure in the air that creeps up your back when something's watching. I hadn't even unpacked yet. I hadn't slept. And yet the garden was blooming like midsummer, though the calendar still held early March. All day I tried to ignore it. I swept the dust, opened windows, lit candles. I didn't look at the garden. But every time I passed a mirror, I caught myself glancing out, just quick flashes of those red blooms and the soft, steaming soil between them. Once, I thought I saw the scarecrow's head tilt. Not fall. Tilt. Like it was watching the sun shift behind the clouds. That night, I didn't hear the wind chimes. I heard breathing. Right under my bedroom window. Steady. Wet. Like something dreaming just beneath the roots. The next morning I woke up with soil under my fingernails. I don't remember dreaming. I don't even remember falling asleep. But when I opened my eyes, there was dirt in my sheets, streaked across my arms and neck, and the faint scent of something sweet and rotting clung to my pillow. At first, I thought maybe I'd sleepwalked, a trick of exhaustion and unfamiliar air, but then I looked outside. The garden had changed again. More blooms, yes, but not flowers. Stalks had risen in the night, thick and wet-looking, like young trees not meant for this soil, and at the top of each one was something like a bulb or a pod, bone-white and twisted, curled like knuckles. One had split open slightly, revealing a glossy black interior that pulsed when the wind hit it. And wrapped around the stems, like veins or leashes, were thin root-like cords that led back into the ground, disappearing beneath the frost-tinged mulch. I forced myself to go outside, clutching a rusted garden trowel like it could protect me from the impossible. The air was heavy, sticky in a way that didn't match the chill, and the ground gave under my boots like wet bread. I approached one of the pods, and as I got close, I heard a sound, a whisper, maybe, but not from the air. From the plant. It clicked, once, then released a slow sigh that made my throat tighten. I bent down and touched the soil, and my fingers sank in too easily, like the earth had been stirred from beneath. When I pulled my hand back, I found something tangled around my wrist, a root, pale and jointed like a centipede's leg, which retracted when the light touched it. I ran inside and didn't go back out until night. But the problem was, the garden didn't stop at the garden. That evening, I found petals on the kitchen floor. Not fallen, placed. A line of them led to the cellar door, which had been nailed shut for years. I stared at it, half expecting it to breathe. The boards looked newer than I remembered, and one nail was twisted like it had been pulled out and hammered back in by uncertain hands. I lit every candle in the house and turned on the old radio just to drown out the silence, but the static only made things worse. It caught on something, just for a second, and I heard my name. Nora. Not shouted, not even spoken. Just breathed. Like it had been waiting to be said. That night, I locked myself in the bedroom. I placed furniture against the door, though I knew it was useless. The house wasn't keeping anything out, it was trying to keep something in. I stayed awake for hours, listening to the soft creaks and distant rustles, and just before dawn, I dared to peek through the curtain. The scarecrow was gone from the post. But I saw him, or it, standing at the far edge of the field, facing the rising sun, with arms spread wide like he was thanking it. And the worst part was, he had my scarf around his neck. The one I lost yesterday. The one I didn't remember putting on when I went outside. I don't remember falling asleep that final night, but when I woke, the bedroom window was open. Not cracked, not ajar, open, wide and welcoming, like I'd done it myself in a heat wave. The curtains fluttered inward, stirred by a breeze that carried a smell like turned soil and rust. In the garden, I could see it from where I lay, impossibly close, as though the yard had stretched forward overnight, creeping up to the foundation of the house like a tide. There were no neat beds anymore, no rows or borders, just a mass of throbbing stems and twitching vines, some of them shifting against each other in slow, breathing motions. It wasn't a garden. It was a body, stretching itself out after a long hibernation, and I could feel it calling to me. Not with words, not even with sounds, but with a pull deep in my ribs, as if my bones had roots of their own and they were aching to return to the dirt. I tried to stand, but my legs buckled. My knees were bruised, raw with patches of skin that looked scrubbed. There was soil in my mouth. My tongue was thick with it, and my teeth ground together like pebbles. I crawled to the bathroom and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and that was when I knew I had no more nights left. My hair was full of moss. Thin red vines curled around my collarbone, and something just under the skin on my forearm twitched when I touched it. I pressed harder and felt it move, not away, but deeper. Hiding. Nesting. The scream never made it past my throat. My reflection stared back, expressionless, as though it had already accepted what I hadn't. I wasn't going to leave. I wasn't meant to. Later, I don't know how much later, I found myself at the backfield. I don't remember walking there, but I was barefoot, and the mud was warm between my toes like breath. The scarecrow was back on his post. Or maybe he'd never left. His arms drooped now, heavy with damp cloth and something underneath that gave him weight. The scarf was still around his neck, but it was stained. Not red. Not brown. Something in between, like bruised petals. His eyes, which had once been buttons, were real now. Glossy and wet and following the light. They tracked the sky like sunflowers, slow and patient, and when they turned toward me, I understood. He had bloomed. Fully. And I was next. The garden waited. The stems curled slightly when I stepped forward, welcoming me, recognizing me. One pod near the fence had split wide open, and inside was not a flower or fruit, but something soft and pulsing and warm. I touched it. It shuddered like it had nerves. It sighed like lungs. And then I felt it, not in my skin, but under it. A connection. A root system. I was already part of it. I don't think I screamed. I don't think I resisted. What's the point, when the soil remembers you better than your own memories? When the land recognizes your heartbeat as one of its own? I sank to my knees, and the vines wrapped gently around my wrists. Not to hold me, to carry me. To guide me home. Somewhere above me, the sun crept higher, and the scarecrow turned its face toward the warmth. I did too. I watched the shadows stretch long and soft across the field, and as they reached the edge of the garden, I felt something inside me finally wake up. Something old. Something buried. Now, every morning, the garden grows. It spreads. It learns. It remembers. More flowers bloom, strange, lovely things that twitch when you breathe near them. And sometimes, just as the light breaks the edge of the world, I think I can see her, the girl who used to live here, standing near the gate, staring in through the mist. But she never comes closer. Maybe she knows what I didn't. Or maybe she sees what I've become. Either way, it doesn't matter. The garden wakes first. And now, so do I.